Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Full 40 with Chris, Trevor, and yours truly, Willie. This podcast, we're going to sit in silence for about 10 minutes until we decide to wake up and start doing stuff. We're going to do just like the team did. So, everybody, just let's sit in silence for a bit.
Can I pretend to hit threes if I'm Creighton?
You're already doing more. You're already doing more than we did, Chris.
Yeah.
So today we're hoping to cover a couple of things. We played 30 minutes of great basketball. I think we won 64-48 if we count just the first 30 minutes of the game.
Change the name of the podcast to The Last 30.
The last 30.
This would be funny if it wasn't the same thing that we've said like 4 times this season already.
This is the recurring bit, yes. I have sent a letter to what's his name now? It's not Mark Emmert. What's the new guy's name? Why am I tripping?
I don't know.
Whatever his name is. I've sent a letter to him, say 40-minute games. But yeah, we're going to talk what happened with Creighton. We're probably going to hit a quick little ad read. I'm giving you guys exactly what's going to happen because there's a lot that's going to happen. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about bubbles popping. We have a new bracketologist here. Chris, in his retirement, will be bracketeering full-time, get a job. And then after that, we'll talk a bit about Marquette. And, well, we also have DePaul. But if we lose to DePaul, there's nothing to talk about for the rest of the – well, there is. But if we lose to DePaul, just the season's done. So it is what it is. So we're going to talk Marquette, assuming we take care of DePaul, who is one of the worst high major college basketball teams of all time.
In history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever.
So besides that, we got a full house here. We got the boys. Brian's not connected. He's just device not connected yet. Undisclosed location. Fellas, let's talk Creighton. How did we feel?
I feel the same that we felt the entire fucking season. What do you want me to say? It's the same story over and over and over and over again. It's the same exact story. And look, this time it was kind of wild because we came back from 24 down and actually had a chance to win the game. But every time this happens, we come up short. I
almost preferred it this way because at least we didn't let the clock expire while trying to get a play drawn up.
I blocked out a lot in my head. I forgot about that.
Well, no, actually,
that was his best.
That was the best. That was the best final play that we've ran.
That's like that we've had since probably the last Creighton game where we actually had a successful slob, that sideline out of bounds play for you non-sickos. That's probably the closest we've come since that.
I'm almost glad that, by the way, that Eric Dixon shot, it looked like he got it off, but you know that if he hit the shot, it would have gone immediately to review. And they would have analyzed the seconds that he caught.
If we've learned anything from high level New Jersey high school basketball in the last week or so, that doesn't really matter. Camden remains champions. I think they won.
Yeah, they did.
But it was actually a really fun game. It was so sad that it was funny in the first half, and then they drag you all the way back into it. And like you said, it was probably better that it didn't go in, but yeah, great look. Nice pass. I was optimistic. They initially put 2 full seconds on the clock, and I was like, that is a ton of time, and there's no way they got that right. And then they changed it to 0.2, and I thought, okay, yeah, no, this game's over. But yeah, heck of a look.
I mean, this is what's been I tweeted this during the game. This has been my frustration with this team the entire season. For 30 minutes of a game, we look like the way we were supposed to. I think we've played maybe 4 or 5 complete games the whole year. And not every team is playing 40 complete games a year. That's just that happens. But the fact that after Creighton went up 32-8, sorry, that we were able to come back and dominate and own the rest of the game. It's so frustrating because it's so clear what the talent of this team is. The fact that we've dropped, at minimum 3, at max 6 games that we probably should have won just due to late game execution or early game being really sloppy. And it's just so frustrating with this team because they're so good when they are good. This is a legitimately very talented team that just is not consistent. It's a damn shame. And now we're here, backs against the wall, hoping to like build a case to go to the bubble versus a Marquette team. Once again, we're skipping DePaul because if we lose to DePaul, nothing matters. Versus
blow up everything.
Yeah.
Blow up everything if we lose to DePaul.
A Marquette team that like has had our number, like even like in the last like I think it's the last.
We're 0-11.
Yeah.
0-11.
0-11.
In the last 11 times playing them, we are 0-11.
That almost seems impossible.
I thought it was like 7, but yeah,
I was gonna guess
11.
7.
Even when we were like really good, that means the Final Four year, we didn't beat
lost,
them.
Yeah,
we lost twice to them.
They killed us at home.
Yeah,
And,
Twice last year. No, twice in 22. Twice in
this
23.
was the last one the Jermaine Samuels game?
No, 11 doesn't seem right.
I saw a tweet that said 11, and you can't tweet anything that's incorrect.
If it's on the internet, it's true.
That's factually correct. No, we beat them in 21.
Okay.
We beat them twice in 21.
Yeah, Trevor doesn't know what he's talking about.
Do the math.
So we're in a 7 game.
Play them in the tournament in the Big East tournament last year. So we played them. We lost to them 3 times last year.
No, we lost to Creighton in the Big East tournament last year. It's
Trevor's
2-2-2. We're on a
I'm going to be following
losing
up.
streak versus Marquette.
I'm going to be following up with that random account that I saw that said 0-11. So you'll be receiving a letter.
Yeah, it's at like butt fondler 69 is like probably what it was, and you're like, yeah, this is true.
It was
this
whoever.
Has to be real.
No, it was whoever.
Simon Charles NFL
Saquon to the Eagles. Yeah.
Anyways, so it was just frustrating. I mean, it was great to see us come back. It was like fun to have those moments, but just like I think everybody feels this. It's incredibly frustrating. The start of the game, I mean, whether you want to blame it on the offense missing layups, but like I don't want to blame it on that because we've been doing that the whole year. That's been consistent. We have shown we will not convert at the rim the entire season. What was frustrating was, okay, the entire thing that Kyle says that we've put our mantra on, that is a top 15 defense in the country, which is like wild to say, but like they are one of the better defenses in the country. Just was like not communicating, not flying around, not connected. There were open threes. There was just like we were in disarray. And we talked about like how embarrassing those was. For us to like not even taking Kyle's Super Bowl comment and like whatever, he says that all the time. But everyone knew what the stakes were of that game. Every single person like on that staff knew, like as much as we pretend like every game's their biggest game, all this different stuff, everybody knows. And if this team's goal is to make the NCAA tournament, which I assume it is, like that's just, I know I have the joke where I'm like, do we know if they want to make it?
No, it's to be the best we can be by the end of the season. Get it right, Willie.
So does that just mean at the final game you have to be playing your best basketball, even if you're down?
Against DePaul, we will be playing our best basketball.
Yeah. Even if we. So just like there's so much where I'm just like, this team is just incredibly frustrating. That was an embarrassing start to the game. And it's like, once again, the pride that we showed to get back, the talent, not even just the pride, we showed how good we are. But to start the game the way that we did, and it wasn't like Creighton, once again, was just hitting contested tough threes. And I was like, all right, there's literally nothing you can do. It's like, oh, why is Mason Miller wide open in the corner? Who Mason Miller leads the Big East in three-point shooting, is literally that is his spot. That is the one place you cannot let him be open in. And it's like, no, we're going to let him shoot. And it's like, that can't be the game plan. It was a lazy start, uninspired, just like knowing what needed to be done. And it was extremely frustrating. And then cool. We like pick it up, and I almost am more insulted that we picked it up and we just didn't get ran out of the building, because it's like, all right, clearly you know how good you are. You can be this good, and now we're left hoping we can beat Marquette.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pile on because it's so annoying. But like, I don't know how many times in like life do you get told, hey, when someone tells you who you are, believe them.
Which is, we're the dummies here. Everybody, we're the idiots here.
Just to be clear, like, yeah, they've told us who we are for a very long time this season. Whether it's the first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes of the game, they've told us that they are going to take 10 minutes off.
I would just like them to pretend to be someone else.
Quiet quitting.
Enough.
In a must-have, gotta have this game to alleviate all pressure game, you come out like that is fucking atrocious. It's an embarrassment top to bottom. You said frustrating, embarrassing, whatever. I want to lay it on a little bit more thick. As a coach, Kyle Neptune, how do you fucking let guys run out of the locker room and participate like that in that situation? Like, it just needs to be said.
Yeah.
Like, how could they be that unprepared? I get Creighton's hot. Well, guess what? Creighton is going to be hot. And especially if you let them shoot practice threes to start a game, they're going to be really good.
Yep.
Shockingly, a top 10 team in the country buried you in threes in 2024 out of the gate if you leave them wide open. That's who would have thought? And so I blame the coach. I blame the players. How long did it take for your competitive juices to kick in? For to be like, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm playing for my like postseason life here. And I'm not suggesting they did, at least in the first couple minutes, they did get a couple good looks that we missed. Fine. But this is the problem with this team, is that they get a couple good looks that they miss. And then it's like head down, and then they miscommunicate on defense, and then whatever. Like, guys, you got to be amped like the whole entire start of that game. Like, you have to come out hot. You have to. And so I don't know, how many times have you seen a team in your fandom of college basketball in a must-win environment at home versus a ranked opponent and come out with their hair on fire?
It was not a must-win environment. It was a dead arena that they literally doubled my ticket order the night before because it was so empty. Like, I walked in there with 16 tickets and there were 5 empty rows behind me. It was a pathetic atmosphere at the start. So
fair.
That's what. No, I'm not saying that's an excuse, but it was just like, this is bad everywhere. Like, Creighton is shooting warm-ups. There's no, like, they got booed off the floor at one of the timeouts, and they deserved it.
And I think what was frustrating, Chris, just before that, is like, it wasn't like we came out and we were like too excited and we were flying around too much and we were overdoing stuff. Like, I'd at least be like, okay, we need to rein that in, but they sensed the moment. There was just a level of being lethargic. I was going to say lethargic. I don't know if that's a word, but like being lethargic that happened. Like, if they were overplaying, they were overcommitting, they were too tight, but they were like running around with like a chicken with their heads cut off, I would have accepted that. And I'd be like, all right, we need to tone that back. But like, they at least recognized what the moment was. Didn't feel that.
There was zero moment.
Yeah.
It was like showing up to play Drexel for the 6th place, for the 5th place.
That's actually, that's
exactly what it was.
That's
exactly what it was. They didn't want to be in that game.
Yeah.
And speaking of, so we're going to go into brackets, but the recurring theme with this team throughout the year is the exact reason why they're in the position that they are in the bracket, right? Like, call a spade, right? Like, I've done my analysis on this, so like, I'll back this all up with facts. But this team wins one more game of any sort throughout the whole rest of the season, and we're looking at beat DePaul and probably just need a good showing against Marquette to make the NCAA tournament.
I think you beat DePaul like we're a protected seed with one other win. Like, I would say we are in the last 4 out, or first, whatever, the last 4 buys.
With one other win of any stripe.
Literally could be Drexel, and it's like, you're fine.
Beat Drexel, and you're not having the conversation. Beat Penn, you're not having the conversation. Beat Kansas State, not having the conversation. Obviously, if you beat Creighton, UConn, Butler, Xavier, any of these 1 possession, 2 possession games that you played all season long where you couldn't get it done, you win one of them and you're not having the conversation that we're having today. You might be on the bubble. We might be like talking about it, but it's more just like, okay, got to do this just so we feel safe on Selection Sunday. So not leaving stuff up to the committee or blah, 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 whatever. Now we're talking about needing to win our way in as opposed to just not losing our way out.
Yep.
It's a shame. We're one.
Do we just want to get into it? Do we just start talking bubble?
Let's roll the ad and
roll the ad, reset the energy. Yeah, I'm going to come back with a totally different energy.
What's up, everybody? We are fast approaching March Madness, and I want to make sure that you, your friends, and your family are all ready for that. So how do we do that? Well, we go to homefieldapparel.com, and utilizing the promo code NOVAINSIDER, you're going to be able to go buy hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, all with the newest logos and the old retro logos that you love for all your favorite schools. It can be Villanova, or it could be St. John's. It could be Seton Hall. It could be Clemson. Wherever you go to school, wherever your loved ones go to school, go to homefieldapparel.com. Utilize promo code NOVAINSIDER for 15% off your first purchase. Trust me, you're not going to regret it.
I really hate myself every time I see that ad.
It's not bad.
Great job.
It's not bad. You don't look like you're reading it.
Chris was so nervous about it, he couldn't even record one.
I know. I couldn't even do it. Wouldn't even do it. Look, what kind of team player am I? Bubbles, brackets, stuff like that. Everything. I posted a long thread on the Twitter account, and if we can.
You want it up?
Yeah, can we show the screen? I'll just show my work. And I'll just give everyone like a sense of what we're looking at here. So I started with like 48 teams on the left. And I went deep. I went into bracketmatrix.com. If you've never ever been to that site, it's actually awesome.
http:// ampersand.
But what it is an aggregator of like 100+ different bracketologists' thoughts around where everything is. And actually, these are presented in order, but I've gone from like the 5 seed line or halfway through the 5 seed line all the way down through like any team that's ever been mentioned on the bubble, like in the last like couple weeks. So this is as complete as possible. It's not meant to be the bubble. It's meant to be just like any team that's basically not a protected seed. And so I lined up with their net, KenPom, BPI, KPI, SOR. So I have these labeled predictive because the KenPom and the BPI, and to a large extent the net, are kind of based on kind of like your analytical. So like the comparison between your tempo adjusted defensive efficiency and offensive efficiency. And resume is based on kind of like just how'd you do versus competition you had. So like KPI is pretty set in that. Strength of record kind of takes your strength of schedule and measures how you performed against that strength of schedule. Again, this is all stuff that appears on the NCAA tournament committee's sheet. So when they are looking at this is the information that they're looking at. Is this how they're looking at it? Probably not. This is how I look at it, but this is just kind of like a way to synthesize kind of how they look at it. Also, I have their strength of schedule that's per the NCAA, so their official strength of schedule, their official non-conference strength of schedule, and how they perform versus quad 1, 2, 3, and 4 competition. I lay that all out. You're going to see a bunch of highlights, and I have a key down here. So if you're of all the teams that I had listed, if you're in the top 16 of the net, KenPom, BPI, KPI, SOR, SOS, and SOR, of the teams on my list, not teams overall, but of the teams on my list, you're highlighted in green. And if you're the bottom 16 of the teams on my list, you're highlighted in red. And then you can see kind of how I laid out net strength of schedule, non-conference strength of schedule, quad 1, quad 2. If you had a lot of wins, you're highlighted in green. If you are over 3 wins over 500 in quad 2, you're highlighted in green. Pretty much anything else is a detractor from your resume. So Less than quad one, less than 3 quad one wins, you're in red. Less than 500 in quad 2, you're in red. If you've played over 15 games in quad 3 and quad 4, I highlighted you in red, but it's kind of like a copy with the strength of schedule because it'll play out there. If you have 2+ quad 3 losses, I highlighted you in red, so you'll see us there in red. If you have any losses in quad 4, or if you played 9+ games, I highlighted you in red. Again, just giving you a lay of the land just to show you kind of how that is. Then I ranked them based on how I evaluated their resume, and kind of evaluated the top. I guess I got 16 that are in that I would view as pretty safely in. Another 12 that I think are pretty comfortably out at the moment. Obviously, this week can change some things, but I think they're out. And where you get to all of this is the teams that I ranked as in. I'm not going to pat myself too much on the back, but Bracket Matrix updated today. And per Bracket Matrix, it was like pretty much not in order. I didn't have the seed lines correct because I wasn't trying to seed teams. I just want to see if they were going to make the field. All of the ones that I listed as in were like the third 5 seed all the way down to the second 9 seed. So like these teams are not in the bubble. These teams are making the tournament. So I'm just going to get rid of them from kind of this analysis here, just to show that. The only thing I had a discrepancy with is like one bracketologist had Ohio State in this field. I don't agree with that at all. That's kind of stupid.
They got a chance to play their way in, but definitely not shouldn't be in the field right now.
Yeah, they're not in the field right now. And then Cincinnati through Indiana on my list are definitely out. So I'm going to clear the nose from that list. So what you have is 20 teams.
Bye, Syracuse.
Yeah. You have 20 teams competing for 10 spots. And the order that they're in right now is how Bracket Matrix has them in that order. So each of these teams in this order. So like Oklahoma is the third 9 seed, Florida Atlantic's the fourth 9 seed, Michigan State's the first 10 seed, Colorado is the first 11 seed, Indiana State is, I believe, their last team in the field. And so that would make Villanova, per Bracket Matrix, the second team out of the field. Each of these teams until Butler, so Providence on up, got at least 1 or 2 or multiple brackets had them in the field. As of today's update, Butler, Utah, Kent State were in anybody's field, although I think they actually should be on the bubble. But that's just kind of how this is my analysis, how I laid it out, whatever. I just setting that all up just to show kind of like where I think we stand versus everyone else. I'll pause there for you guys. I've been talking a lot, but I pause there for you guys to chat if you want to.
This is all really fun, but like the bid stealing potential is going to be a thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And look, I mean, Gonzaga and St. Mary's play. I think someone's playing right now.
Yeah.
I don't know who's playing. Is it St. Mary's playing right now?
I think St. Mary's is playing Santa Clara right now.
Okay. Like, so St. Mary's is in my view comfortably in the field. They're actually probably, in my view, the closest to dropping out. But I don't even think losing to Santa Clara will do that to them. I think they're going to make the tournament. So if you're rooting against bid stealers, you're rooting for Gonzaga and St. Mary's to win their respective games.
Yep.
Because then it doesn't matter who wins that. I don't care who wins Gonzaga.
Because we don't want Santa Clara to steal a bid. And
right. You don't want Santa Clara. You don't want San
San
Francisco.
Francisco.
I think Gonzaga's playing San Francisco. You don't want those teams to steal a bid. At least one of them has to get through tonight so that team has the chance to win tomorrow. But like every bid stealer will matter in this entire arrangement. Again, it's not talking about. I'm not going back to the conversation before the commercial break of like pissing and moaning about everything that's happened so far. I'm putting this analysis together to demonstrate that Villanova has a very legitimate chance to find itself into the field. We have the most losses on the bubble, no doubt. And there's some people out there talking about
achievement,
loss volume and whatever. But fortunately for us, we have 4 quad 1 wins. Where are we? We have 4 quad 1 wins. We're 5-1 versus quad 2, which is very good comparative to the rest of the bubble. And our quad 3 sucks, but what's done is done. We still have a way to win ourselves into the field, and we have the resume to back it up. So like the net, the Ken Pom, and the BPI all love us.
All of our predictive numbers are really good.
Yes. Now, something's going to break in this year's like bracket. Some team is going to come in and like get into the bracket that's like broken some type of record in the net era, because like all bracketologists, you'll see them on Twitter all the time. Well, no team who had this fact pattern ever made the tournament, or no team who had this fact pattern ever didn't make the tournament. Someone's going to break it, because like I can tell you right now, Butler fits that criteria in some ways. K-State fits that criteria in some ways. Like it's like no quad 3 losses and at least 4 quad 1 wins, I think is like the criteria that they meet, that like no team in that resume has ever been left out. Well, probably one of those teams is going to be left out of the field, right? Like
there's got to be some fuckery. Like
yeah, there's totally going to be some fuckery. Right now, Indiana State is 29th in the net. Indiana State is, I mean, if we're being honest, like I like mid majors. I don't think they get the opportunities to rack up wins like major.
And I don't want them to get them today.
Right. But like Indiana State, if they get left out of the field at 29th at net, would be the first top 30 net team to not make the tournament. Right. Like, so someone's going to break something. So like every time you read that, I'm not dismissing that, because I think it's like wrong or a bad fact. I think these people who are doing this bracketology are trying to present some like context to everything and why they're thinking about certain ways, certain things, certain ways. But something's going to break. So just take that with a grain of salt when you read that, because I've seen the term a bunch before. No team with 15 losses in the regular season, which Villanova isn't. It would be 15. If we lose in the Big East tournament, it would be 15 losses technically got there during the postseason, whatever, has ever made the field. So they're going to use that. Bracketologists are going to use that as reasons to exclude Villanova. I'm just saying, pause on that. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying take that with a grain of salt, because there has been a 15-loss team that's made the field as an at-large, 1. 2, this year something's going to give. Something is going to break this year in how, and the committee's got a doozy of a job on their hands, because every year everyone says this bubble sucks. Well, I got news for you. This bubble sucks.
But that's what makes the bubble good, is because this sucks. Because there's like, if there was a clear line of like, all right, you have your first 4 in, your last 4 in, first 4 out, and there's a clear line of that, like it'd be like, oh, it's a strong bubble, to the point where like, okay, well, yeah, that just means that there's no confusion anymore. Like a team could drop. It's not strong. There are major blemishes on every single team on this list.
I'm laughing out loud to myself on mute about how Virginia is 22-9.
Yes.
That is like the grossest misrepresentation of an eye test I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, look, the other thing about when we're talking about this like loss volume debate is it gets back to this. It's an age old time. I've been doing this. I've been not doing this, but like I've been engaged in college basketball for like 20 years. Right. Every year it's like, well, I mean, at some point the wins and losses have to matter. Well, yes, I agree. Right. But like, I'm sorry, but like, look at Pitt. I don't care that they're 21-10. They played the 342nd non-conference strength of schedule. They played one of the shittiest non-conference strength of schedules you could ever imagine playing.
Yep.
It is hard to be this. It is hard to be that bad. Hard. And so like, yeah, they're going to have 21 wins. It's actually embarrassing that they have 10 losses playing the 342nd hardest non-conference strength of schedule.
That's
I want to go through and just read Pitt's schedule out to people so they haven't know, like, what does that mean, 347th? It means they played it North Carolina A&T at home, Binghamton at home, FGCU at home, Jacksonville at home. All of these are quad 4 level games. They played neutral site at Florida and lost by 15. They played Oregon State, who's dog shit, neutral site. They played Missouri at home, who's dog shit, and lost to Missouri. They played Clemson, who's good, and there's a conference game at home, lost. So it's not even non-conference. West Virginia on the road, beat them. And then Canisius, South Carolina State, Fort Wayne. You have
horrible.
Two quality teams in Clemson at home and Florida, and they lost both of those.
Clemson's a conference game.
And then you have like six schools that I would not even be able to select as real schools if it was a Jeopardy question.
Yeah. And I keep adding Clemson because I played them earlier, but that's an ACC game, so that doesn't even count.
Right. So they played an absolutely brutal strength of schedule. They have 2 quad 1 wins. Like, these are the teams that you're talking about on the bubble, which is like, it's brutal. It sucks. But like, that's when people are like, well, how can they exclude a 21 win ACC team in Pittsburgh? Well, I just showed you how. Because when you don't play anybody and the ACC isn't good, you're going to stack up wins. And it's the same story with Virginia to a lesser extent. It's definitely the same story for TCU and Big 12 competition. At least the Big 12 is good, right? But TCU is a team that most bracketologists have as in at the moment. I think they're the second 10 seed per bracket matrix right now. But this is a team that played the 372nd non-conference strength of schedule. What?
372nd.
I apologize. And by the way, with TCU, there needs to be a huge fucking asterisk on TCU's resume because they lost that game to Georgetown. They lost that game to Georgetown. It's marked as a win. So it says like, oh, they don't have a bad loss. Well, guess what? They freaking lost to Georgetown. I don't care what anyone says. That guy stepped on the line before he put up that shot. That was a controversial moment earlier in the year, which, by the way, would matter in this, right?
I don't know if they'd be off, but they'd probably be around us with that Georgetown loss.
They'd be closer to us.
They should do the right thing and forfeit the game.
That's when Malik Waynes does it, then Jamie Dixon can do it.
Yeah.
So, look, this is all just to say kind of like where I see things shaking out. Here's the upside and the upshot of everything. Some of these teams play each other. I listed it out, but let me just go pull it up. Just to kind of talk through it. Some of these teams play each other. So if things play out as expected, on Wednesday, TCU will play Oklahoma. So that to me is a play. Like, I think both teams are probably in the field at the moment.
But you probably want Oklahoma to win.
You want Oklahoma to win.
Yeah.
You want Oklahoma to win. They're safer in the field by, I think, a margin.
Yeah.
And so you'd want Oklahoma to solidify their position in the field and knock TCU down a peg to put them in danger. K-State plays Texas on Wednesday as well. Texas is solidly in the field in like the 7-8 line. K-State, so you want K-State to lose that game.
Yep.
It's like one of those games where you want them to lose close because K-State right now is a quad 2 loss.
Yeah.
No, they're a quad 1 loss. They're a quad 1 loss, and they would slip into a quad 2 loss if they lose too much, if they drop too far in the net. Then on Thursday, Ohio State plays Iowa. And it's a play-out game for sure. The loser of that game is not making the field. But I think you probably want Ohio State to maybe get a little closer and knock Iowa safely out, and then Ohio State loses their next game.
That's what I would say. Like, because Ohio State's like, I would say Ohio State's like there's first 4 out, there's next 4. Ohio State's in that next round. So like, knock Iowa further down, you win, and then lose to, I don't know who they'd be playing after that, but then lose in that next game, and Ohio State's out regardless.
Right. Utah will play Colorado. Now, that's a game that's Colorado right now most people have in the field. but they're close. They'd be in the first four per bracket matrix right now.
Yep.
So do you want Colorado to lose that game, or do you want that Utah jumps up a little bit, or do you just want Utah to just fall off the cliff, to fall off of Utah? I think we need some of these teams up here to lose. Like I think I could draw the line at Florida Atlantic, who we want to get an auto bid.
That's where I'm at, simply because like at a certain point, like if everyone solidifies it, like we need people to drop down. That's just what it is. Because unless we fully believe we're going to beat Marquette and then go on, well,
we need to beat Marquette. There's no world in which we don't make the tournament if we don't beat Marquette.
Yeah, so that's not going to happen. So, but with beating Marquette, like you want just people to drop down. You want people to drop down. I would rather see.
Does St. John's play Seton Hall?
Yes, so that's another one to call out.
Is that a play-in in or play-in out?
It's not a play. I think it's a play-in game more than it is a play-out game. I think more is on the line. This is my 2 cents. I think more is on the line for St. John's.
If St. John's loses, I don't say that they're out, but like I think they're first.
No, it depends on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So St. John's, as I did this analysis a week ago, Utah and us at home were quad 1 wins. So St. John's had 5 quad 1 wins. As we sit here today, they got 3 because we fell out of the top 30 in the net, and Utah fell out of the top 50 in the net. Yes. So St. John's saw their resume like dust up overnight, because at one point in time, Villanova and Utah were quad 1 wins and probably in the field or close enough to it. And now like, and by the way, St. John's beat us twice. So it's not here, but like the wins over the field metric, St. John's had picked up 2 extra wins over a team in the field. So St. John's is kind of like dancing on thin ice. I think St. John's is in if they beat Seton Hall. I don't think Seton Hall falls out. I think if Seton Hall beats St. John's, they're definitely 100% Seton Hall's in the field. Remember, their following opponent in all likelihood is going to be UConn, because UConn's playing the Xavier Butler winner. So I think, it's my guess, I think that the winner of that game is definitely making the field, the Seton Hall St. John's game. I think if St. John's wins, I think both teams can make the field. I think if Hall wins, I think St. John's is going to be like really on the edge on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So if you're rooting against, I don't love rooting against Big East opponents, but if you're rooting against a team, I think you're rooting against St. John's in that game. I think Seton Hall is more solidly. I feel better about Seton Hall making it. The metrics don't love them, but 5 quad 1 wins stands out like a lot. And they have wins over Connecticut and Marquette.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that Seton Hall's going to be left out on Selection Sunday. They might be in the first 4, but I think they're going to make the field.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. That's been my analysis of them.
But if you want a fun semifinal game, I think St. John's UConn would be a fun semifinal. But
I mean, whose home court is it?
I would like a fun semifinal. I would like a fun semifinal in which
we play Creighton.
In which Seton Hall beats UConn. Yeah. Is
Fair
that
enough.
mathing? Yeah.
That maths.
The maths.
It logically does.
It would be so
basketball wise. I don't know if
there's no logic behind it.
Yeah. So I mentioned the Colorado-Utah game. So we talked about that. And then there is Wake has to beat, I think it's Wake. I think Wake has to win a game on Wednesday. But Wake would play Pitt on Thursday if Wake wins that game. And that's definitely a play-out game. So the loser of the Wake-Pitt game on Thursday is definitely not going to make the field. I feel very confident saying that.
So do you think, and this is something I was looking at, Facey, do you think it's worth having Wake lose and then, like, let's say Wake loses, they fall out, not even to Pitt, just in the whoever I want to say it's BC, Florida State. I can't remember who their matchup is before then. Whoever they're playing. Wake loses that first game. Pitt plays, let's say Pitt wins. So Pitt gets a win, but it's versus a worse team. And then they lose in the next round to, I can't even remember who that's going to be. I'm going to look at their bracket. But essentially, do you think there's more value in having Wake lose early and getting them out off the bubble? Thank you, Sarah. Yeah,
yes.
Georgia Tech.
Yes. Yeah. If Wake lost early, it would crush them. And
then I don't know if like Pitt beating, let's say Georgia Tech, and then losing to whoever else is the next ACC one. Can't remember it. I'm gonna look it up real quick. It'd be UNC, likely that they'd be playing the next round. Yeah. I don't know. I think that Pitt with the bad non-con, like that's the path I would want to see there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And then, New Mexico will be in their tournament. They have a game on, I think, Wednesday. I could be wrong.
Yeah, they got Air Force who beat them at home.
Air Force will beat them home. I don't think New Mexico will lose that game again.
Yeah.
But then I think it's Boise. I think they play Boise State on the Thursday. If they advance, I'm pretty sure of that. You're definitely rooting against New Mexico. So Richard Pitino. So you're rooting against Richard and Rick Pitino this week.
Always have been.
So just as an aside, one, I know we spoke about how much I love the Mountain West this year. I've been like a pseudo New Mexico fan all season just because like I think they're really fun. There's like a non-zero chance that play, if like whatever happens, that like New Mexico and St. John's is a play-in game in Dayton, and that would be absolutely electric. As long as we make the field too. But regardless of that, just would be really cool to see.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and like logically, it makes sense. There's a chance it happens.
Yeah. Only other game to call out is UVA plays Clemson. Clemson's solidly in the field, probably is 5-6 line on Thursday. It wouldn't pick up a bad loss, but you're definitely rooting for Clemson in that matchup.
Yeah,
100% rooting, and ideally you're rooting for to UVA to score like 37 points, like so
which they might do it and win. So you never know.
Yeah, they could do that. You want them to look as bad as possible in their loss. So that's the lay of the land here. I didn't get into the SEC, which I probably should have.
Texas A&M is the most interesting SEC team to me.
At Texas A&M, I put in my thread. This team is on drugs. This resume is absolutely on drugs. Look at this: 5 quad 1 wins, 4 quad 3 losses. What? Like if you, it's like a steroid version of our resume. It's hilarious. By the way, I think they're in the field. Like Bracket Matrix has them out. Fielding the 68, those guys from the field of 68, they have them in. I think that they would, if I was doing this, I would probably have them in the field. I'm a big believer in good wins are bigger than bad losses. I've actually felt that way for a long time, not just because it helps my case this year, but it does help my case this year, so I feel more strongly. But I think that Texas A&M is in the field. So I think we'd have to jump Texas A&M. The teams I have, so I'm not going to talk about Indiana State. I said it. I'm not going to feel bad if we get in over them. If the committee puts them in over us, I'm fine with it because opportunities and whatever, fine. The team I want to talk, New Mexico, has no business being in the field above us as it stands right now. None. And if they beat Boise State and we beat Marquette on Thursday, we should jump them because that would be a bigger, better win than anything they got on their resume. Just calling that out. Calling that out. Final note just to make here on the bracket talk is kind of like, okay, so like what do we need to do this week? We've laid out kind of like there's an interplay here between everything. It's not just this simple equation of like, well, if you just win this one game, you're automatically in. But
which it could have been.
It could have been. But if we have to beat DePaul, and I think, look, our metrics are good, so like fine, but we're supposed to beat DePaul per Ken Palm by 20. This should be like a game. We got to run away with this one. It doesn't hurt it would not hurt our net or Ken Palm or any of these things. It wouldn't hurt our resume at all to have a runaway win and move up a couple spots in the predictive metrics. It didn't hurt. It just puts pressure on the committee. Now, they win it by itself doesn't do anything for you. So the next game would be against Marquette. My belief is that if we beat Marquette, I'm going to definitely be watching on Selection Sunday thinking that we have a chance if we lose the semifinal game. So if we beat Marquette and then we play theoretically Creighton or Providence, I would think that we have a good chance on Selection Sunday.
I don't think that's enough.
I don't think it's – I wouldn't put the chances at like 75%, like take it to the bank. But you add a quad one, what's technically considered a quad 1A win to our resume. You take us to 5 quad 1 wins. The biggest weak spot in our resume, beyond the 3 losses in quad 3, is that our KPI and our SOR average to a 63. And you'll hear this all the time. Again, no team has ever made the field with their resume average, blah, 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 blah. But these are low. These are low. They're low compared to the bubble. They're bad. A win against Marquette could very easily send this to 58 and 48, which would be very much reasonable to make the field. So, like, that's how much it could improve those metrics. It could remove some red from this ledger, if you will, and probably do enough to put us to leapfrog us over some of these teams here.
And I think just taking it from like the most simple standpoint, I think when you look at that and you look at those 5 wins, then you would have Marquette on a neutral site, UNC on a neutral site, Texas Tech on a neutral site, Creighton on the road, and then I guess Providence on the road. Like, I think the committee would have enough to say like Villanova when they go on the road or in a neutral site carries enough like weight to play to go in. Like, because I know I don't know if it's actually an official metric, but like, can they win a game in the tournament is kind of like what a lot of people will say down here. Beating Marquette and kind of adding that 5th piece, that last piece to our resume, would put us. I sit there thinking like, I think it gives us a pretty strong chance, barring a run from a Utah, a run from Ohio State, like just a bid stealer. Like, that's just where it is. I will say this. And this is not just for us, this is for anybody else. Indiana State might be a bid stealer. We'll see what they're going to do. If there's another surprise bid from like the Mountain West, if anybody wins in one of the major conferences who's not going to win, we're not getting anywhere. We're done. It doesn't matter if we beat Marquette. And I would even say it doesn't matter if we beat the semifinal game.
No.
Yeah, I'll take that back.
You missed my take. If we beat Marquette and then beat Creighton, if we beat Marquette and then beat Providence, I feel really good. But if we beat Marquette and then beat Creighton, I will bet a significant amount of money on the fact that we're going to make the tournament. Because we'd also be 20 wins, too.
Yeah, I went too far with the second game, but which is Marquette. I'll say that.
Yeah. So if we win both, we don't have to win the Big East. That's my point. We do not have to win the Big East tournament to make the field.
No.
I'm very solid in that belief. If we make it to Friday, Selection Sunday's worth watching. If we make it to Saturday, expect to be in the field. That's how I feel. But I've done this math. I've done the work on this. I actually got really close to bracket matrix just by kind of doing it on my own. So I feel like it's a little group thinky, but at the same time, like I feel like was on the right track in how I was doing this analysis.
Did you get any regular work done today, Chris?
Yeah, I did after I did all this stuff.
I guess has anyone seen an update about Kolek for Big East tournament availability?
He had been taking pregame shoot around, I heard, in the Xavier matchup.
I fully expect him to play.
I'm sure he'll play.
Yeah.
Also, like, it's going to be like a Cam Jones revenge game too. He got snubbed, didn't he, from All Big East?
Yeah.
Yeah. we might be in danger.
We're in danger. Yes, but we're also due to beat them. Not because we're like good, but because we've lost a lot in a row to them.
Oh God, I struggle with your logic there. We ask any team that has a win streak against DePaul.
Yeah, well, we did, and eventually it ended.
I know, but not at 7. It ended at like 20 something.
So look, this is kind of like that. That's all I got from a bracket standpoint. I think talking about Marquette. I'll stop sharing my screen as well. Talking about Marquette, I think it's like obviously a must-win game. You can't go behind like we did versus them, like we did versus Creighton, like in the Garden. I expect that we would have a slight crowd advantage, but
you don't know that.
I don't know who Providence fans in the building. Like, I don't know who the leftovers from the Providence Creighton game would root for.
I mean,
I would assume they'd root for us because they would under the assumption that we're the easier opponent to play on Friday.
If they're thinking about the next game, yeah.
Yes, right.
If they're thinking about tournament resume, it's
not that I think game atmosphere is going to impact the outcome of the game all that much, but I'm not sure how it'll go. I don't know what the environment's going to be like.
We have the late game.
All I gotta say is
we have the late. We're the late all the way through. So we're like the 9 o'clock on Wednesday, the 9:30 on Thursday, or whatever. I might have it wrong.
9:30 and 7 or
it's 9. It's 9 on Wednesday.
9:30 on Wednesday.
It's 9 on Wednesday or 9.
9 on Wednesday. Then yeah, I think it's 9. It might be 9 on Thursday. Whatever. It's those games always start late, and then it's and then we'd be in the late semifinal game too. So.
I have one thing to say about we better get ready to learn Eastern Kentucky University because that's where we're going to be playing in the NIT.
Yeah.
We're going to get like the A-Sun. Yeah, they won the A-Sun and then lost in the tournament. So yeah, because they still have.
No, it doesn't work like that anymore.
I thought that was next year. Is it this year they did it?
No, it's this year. The top. So yeah, it's the top 2 teams from each conference in the net would make that don't get into the NCAA would make the field. So like guys,
Buddy, we're having a pavilion game, baby.
We are fucking ticket punched into the NIT. That is for sure.
You thought the last game of the year already happened? Nope, we're coming back to the pavilion, baby.
Oh yeah. God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I don't even like there's not really much to get into like how we beat Marquette. Like like our defense has to travel. We cannot start the game like you guys said. It's just gonna be real simple stuff. Defense travels, shoot threes, and like hope Tyler Kolek plays, but is like 70% and is like trying too hard. Like that's just honestly what it is. I think at this stage, like
yeah. We got to do something about Oso Ighodaro and these pick and rolls and these rim runners. Like we got to be able to do something. We got burnt by it on versus Creighton the other day too. Everyone's running the same play. Where I don't know what it's called, Willie, because you're better at hoops than I am. But is a pick up front, and then both the ball handler, the guard, and the big both kind of start rolling towards the rim.
mm-hmm.
Trey Alexander with Kalkbrenner was chewing us up with this in the first half the other day, and Marquette did this to us like nonstop with either Kolek or Cam Jones and Oso Ighodaro when we played them in Marquette. I forget. I don't know what the play is called. It might just be a simple pick and roll.
I'm like, it just sounds like a simple pick and roll.
Yeah. Right. So, but they were chewing us up left and right like that. We got to find some way to guard that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. What I would just say is typically what we've done off of that is like we will either well, I mean, we're always going to switch, and then we'll switch, and then like it usually gets into like not a drop coverage or anything like that, but we'll be play off our man. Like it would need to be, we'd need to like hedge hard and ice the ball screener, and then be able to like essentially you cannot let Alexander or Kolek start getting downhill, and you have to keep him there. And then you'd probably want your help side person stunting towards the roll man to be able to like take away that pass. That's just off the top of my head how I think I would scheme against it. But the issue is Tyler Kolek's a really fucking good point guard. Like he's an NBA point guard, and he will either like he will take it back up, cross over, like re-screen the screener. They'll screen again and then just do it again if they don't get the right look. It's going to be interesting. They'll go into whatever you want to do. They'll screen the screener and doing like a Spain pick and roll or whatever you want to call it, and they'll have a pop out, and then it's going to be Cam Jones or Stevie Mitchell popping for three. So it's going to be Kyle's got his work cut out. We'll just put it like that.
That's for damn sure. Look, we're going to have to shoot well. That goes without saying. But
not too well.
Why?
Because when we shoot really well, we usually don't play good defense.
oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
I was like, I mean,
I'm talking about like the first Marquette game. Like we shot really well, but we gave them a layup.
Fair. I was like, I mean, I'd like to shoot really well. Like,
shoot well enough to not lose focus. I think we're gonna need a big game from. This sounds obvious, but we're gonna need a big game from Justin Moore. We need him to show up in the Garden. It needs to be what
I'm thinking of. Like, we do need a big game from Justin Moore, and I'm thinking of the Michael Irvin meme where he's like yelling. He's like, "Nobody believes in you. What are you going to do about it?" That's what Justin Moore needs to be listening to that on repeat.
Yeah, correct. It's a legacy. It's a legacy opportunity for them.
Yeah.
So the path is beat DePaul by 30, beat Marquette by any score imaginable.
It's just like, I mean, and we've spoke about this a bit. It would feel wrong for Justin, but definitely for Eric as well. Like if this is like, I don't imagine Eric's coming back. I feel like he's probably just like, I'm good. Like I've been here for 5 years. Maybe he decides to come back. Maybe we throw an NIL bag, whatever. I have no insight into that. I'm just saying, but I feel like they deserve even a tournament appearance at post Jay Wright, and should have, whatever you want to call it. Deserve, not clearly by records, but whatever. And I'd want to see him get that. And I truly think like Eric has become so fucking good. Like I have nothing but like the highest praises for that young man. He from transforming his body to transforming his game to like literally where he's like, we're seeing it. He's getting a rebound, rushing down court, crossing over on a big man, getting to the rim, and then laying it up. Like he's doing stuff like he's playing like we said we wanted to see him play more like a 4, and we needed a 5 to let him do it. I think he's just kind of just like, no, I'm just playing a 4. I'm just going to be a 4. I'm just going to show 4 skills. I'm going to do what I can do. And like, if I need to be a 5, I'll be a 5. He's had a really, really good season as known by as by like typified, whatever the word is, by his second team All Big East, which congrats to Eric. I want to see him get just even a game in the tournament. I don't care if we can learn Dayton, baby. Like, let's go learn Dayton. I'm in there. But just something to like give him some kind of like, yeah, this is a proper send off for a person who deserves that. And Justin too. Like, I mean, Justin has a chance to kind of like, all right, I had everything that happened in the Houston game, and then obviously like it's been like a journey to come back. Just to even get back to the tournament and be able to play in a game would be huge. And I mean, the transfers like Hakeem Hart, like they wanted to play, and then also just everybody. Like I want everybody to get a chance to get the tournament experience. Kyle, like, go be unprepared in Dayton.
I think it's important for the. I think it's important for the program.
It's just an important program moment.
And like, obviously, it's been a rough roller coaster, mostly a down roller coaster, but like a roller coaster ride since Jay left, since April 2022. But man, it would be a momentum. A positive momentum signal to see this squad get back into the NCAA tournament this year by any means necessary. So that's why I said I'm not going to feel bad if we make it, no matter how we get there. I'm not going to feel bad, but just something to put the wheels rolling in the right direction. I hear talk out there. Would it make sense is it better just to have it go wrong and then cut bait or whatever? We could talk about the offseason in the offseason. I'm rooting for this team to make the field. I am fairly certain about who will be the coach next year. And that's Kyle Neptune. So I'd like to see him get some, but you can have a whole we'll have a whole conversation at the end of the season.
We'll talk about it.
We're going to talk about it, but I'm fairly certain what I think is going to happen. So with that being said, then the best possible result is he gained some momentum, some confidence, something to point to recruits that say, look, we got this train rolling in the right direction. The portal's opening up. People have started to put their names in. Schlackert from Penn is in the portal. So
why couldn't he have done that before our game?
Yeah. But like these guys are in the so there's people entering the portal already, people whose seasons are over and whatever. And so you're going to see more and more of it as the month goes on. It may include some of our guys. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on that. I have no inside information on that. Team is fully focused on the next game. But that's going to happen. So we got to recruit portal guys, some of our own players back again, etc. So you'd like to see the season end on a somewhat positive note because we have to. I think it's important that the program kind of trend in a positive direction. Even if this season came with ups and downs and missed opportunities, get into the field, have an opportunity to advance. Who knows? I showed you the 6 seeds before in the analysis. Like an 11 seed Villanova can hang with those guys. Like
if we want me to get irrationally exuberant, if we want me to start
No, you did that versus UConn.
No, not that. Well, kind of that. It's not UConn specific. I'm going to say it, and do I believe it? 33%. If we get into the tournament and we get out of Dayton, because I'm assuming we get in, we're probably going to be in Dayton no matter what. Let's just say we're in Dayton and we're not in Dayton. Whoever we play that first game, I'm not going to say it.
No, don't say it.
I'm not going to say it.
What I will say is this: I don't think people will be excited to have.
No,
if they're a 6 seed, I don't.
You know what I will say?
To draw Nova.
You know what I will say? I'm going to be at the East Regional in Boston, and I'm going to be watching the Villanova Wildcats in the East Regional in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. Based off of what? I don't know. Pure hope and vibes.
You're an insane person. You're an insane person, and I refuse that. And
I will be watching Wildcats. I'm going to bet that there's a Wildcat in the East Regional, maybe Kentucky, but like
yeah. There might be a Wildcat. Arizona, Kentucky, someone, some Wildcat.
Northwestern maybe does it. Yeah.
We'll be in the East Regional. That much I know. A Villanova Wildcat, I'm not so sure.
You can watch the
see y'all in
replays
Boston,
of the
baby.
East Regional whenever you want.
Yeah.
That's what
right.
my dad called me the other day. He goes, Omari just hit a big 3. We're up 10 against West Virginia. I was like, oh my God.
Great shot.
All right. So, yeah.
Want to hit a Wildcat of the week before we bounce here?
Yeah, why not? So this week I went with the first player not from the Jay Wright era. I went with everybody's favorite player from the 90s, Kerry Kittles.
Carol Kittles. Wow.
Who is famously an alumnus of the same high school as Caleb Daniels, who transferred to Villanova.
St. Augustine Prep.
Yes, in New Orleans though, not in
New Orleans,
South Jersey. Yeah.
Or St. Augustine High School. Sorry, it's not Prep. Yeah.
The Prep's the one in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I a guy that needs no introduction, obviously. One of the best to come through Villanova. He all-time leading scorer 4-time. Is he still the all-time leading scorer?
For men?
He is the all-time leading
Yeah,
scorer.
for men.
Yeah, he is. He is for men. Matty Segris is obviously
Yes.
Yes.
for everyone. For men.
You know, led Villanova to the 1994 NIT championship. People forget. We had that banner up there. He was obviously all Big East, averaging 20-plus points a game, 1995 Big East tournament championship, All-American, all Big Five, all
Twice.
everything.
He was a 2-time All-American, which is insane.
Yeah. That senior year tournament did not go super well for that team.
No. Old Dominion, right?
It was Old
No.
Dominion in triple overtime, or
No, that was his junior year. That was 94-95. Senior year was Louisville.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously a long NBA career. He wore the coolest jerseys in Villanova history.
Dinosaur font.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very 90s. Coached at Princeton for a time. I don't know if he's still there or not. I don't know what he's up to right now.
No,
but
he's on the board of trustees, isn't he? Is he on the board still?
He's on the board at Nova for some period of time. I don't know. He's
I'm pretty
most
sure he
famous
left Princeton
for being like awkward conversations with McHale after games in 2018 because he's like, "Hey, people say you're like my little brother." There's a very horrendously awkward locker room clip of them after one of their games, and McHale's like, "Oh yeah, I guess we both have long arms." Like, but I guess Chris, since this is more, this is like he was playing before I was born. Obviously, I knew about him.
My uncle was there when he was there. My uncle was there when he was there.
So no, this is my question for you. Since you weren't like a Villanova fan per se growing up or anything, your family was St. John's family. Was he at all on your radar as like, oh, this guy's cool, or anything? Like, what was your introduction?
So my uncle did go to Villanova, so like I had heard like, oh, this guy's awesome, like whatever. I candidly didn't watch a ton of college basketball until I got to college, or just before I should say until I got into college, like admitted. But that era was cool. Like you couldn't miss on like ESPN and whatever, which like everyone sat down and watched SportsCenter at night. Like you couldn't miss the Kittles highlights from Nova. You couldn't like Allen Iverson during like all of those.
That was a crazy time for the Big East
during that particular like time frame of the Big East. Like there were some awesome names. Yeah. And it's like funny because like the 90s are not thought of as the Big East best era, but some awesome players came out of the 90s. So you did hear a little bit about Kittles in terms of obviously a lot of people were locked into the NBA in the 90s as well, and he went into the league. But he's awesome. Anytime you watch any highlight package of Kittles, it's like some electric dunk. He could jump from anywhere. Is maybe the most athletic guy who's ever played it on campus. 2,243 is his total points. And I was very closely, when Scotty Reynolds was on campus, I was very closely tracking if Scotty would catch him, and he fell a couple games short. He only needed like 21 more points to catch him, which he probably could have gotten if we advanced a couple more games in that tournament. But Kittles did that in 17 less games than Scotty did his. Just to put it into context of how
crazy,
unbelievable Kerry Kittles was. And he averaged 18.4 points per game over a 4-year career.
And then the other thing to call out is obviously then he goes on to have a great pro career. Kittles was in the 96 draft, which anyone doesn't know, that draft was Allen Iverson, Marcus Camby, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Stephon Marbury, Ray Allen, Kittles, Steve Nash, Tony Delk, Peja Stojakovic, and then this guy named Kobe Bryant. And the funny story about it is Kobe Bryant was actually supposed to go to the Nets, and they were planning on drafting Kobe like the entire time. And then, I don't know, agency stuff happened, whatever. And essentially, John Calipari, who was the coach of the Nets at the time, went with Kerry. And like, obviously the rest is history. And Kerry Kittles had a good NBA career. He got hurt, wasn't as super long, but he was still very productive and a high level NBA player. He obviously isn't Kobe Bryant, but it's just like a funny thing. Like there was that growing during that time period in the early like 2000s when the Nets were making the finals, there was always this conversation around like, wow, they could have had Kobe on this team instead of facing Kobe. But regardless, like it was what he did just at the next level was great. Like only played 8 seasons. He was growing up, like he was one of the Villanova players that like when I was like, I like looked back on when I like was like, oh, like because I was a sicko as even a 7-year-old. I was like, who's Kerry Kittles? And I knew that he's a Villanova player, and like I read all about him. Yeah, I mean, just an absolute bucket. And then just like a class Villanovan across the board, which is like super cool to see him find success at Princeton, and then now doing whatever he's doing. Sounds like he's on the board of trustees. Yeah,
he's not anymore, but I think he's not. But where he was,
he's fine. Time. Whatever he's doing, he's fine.
Yeah. I wish we had more to say. Unfortunately, Brian might.
Yeah, so one thing that's cool. So I grew up going to games, so I remember Kerry. He was not my favorite player because he was everyone else's favorite player. I liked Alvin Williams. Super fun to watch. The cool thing about him is like back then the recruiting was so much more regional, and he came from Louisiana. And there wasn't really like a player before. I never understood or heard the story of how Steve Lapis got him, but that really like put Villanova kind of back into
because Villanova is an Augustinian school.
But I mean, even still, there's other Catholic schools.
No, I'm saying he went to St. Augustine for high school.
Oh yeah, those. Yeah, okay. I know a lot about church. No, so I mean, yeah, he was like when people do their Mount Rushmore Nova players, a lot of times you'll see like 3 guys from the current era. There's not a chance he should be left off any reasonable Mount Rushmore. No. And I think everyone at our age, Chris and I's age, probably does that just anyway. And then guys like our parents' age would go with Harold Porter. Obviously, none of us watch Harold Porter, but it's one of those things. I give those nods too. Like, sure, if you guys watched for 60 years and Harold Porter's the best player, I feel like that's going to be us with Kerry Kittles. People talk about Bridges and DiVincenzo and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but Kittles. But definitely a cool cat to talk about.
Winning the Big East tournament in the 90s too, like it got our 2022 Big East tournament championship because of the path that we had to play. Like it was I think now was probably one of the better ones. But until then, because of the way that the tournament was a little bit, at least in the first few years, the 15, 17, whatever, were a little bit weaker of a Big East. That 90s Big East tournament win is like one of the coolest Big East tournament wins that we have. 100%.
Yeah. Well, and we kind of laugh at that NIT thing just because of where we are now. My dad and his friends went to all of those games there at Madison Square Garden. So like each night it was like, all right, we're going back tonight. We're going back tonight. I remember the banner growing up was a big deal. When we were just in Providence, we noticed there's a list of times they played in the NIT and times they won it. So it's not nothing as funny as like.
No, I know. I made the joke now, but that I was referencing that tweet that somebody replied and was like, they have a banner for their NIT. I'm like, yeah, we did too.
Yeah. No, it's that was.
No, the NIT was.
And I think in like the 40s, it was the main tournament. So like the longer we get away from it, we could be like, that was actually the real one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Xavier's going to be Xavier fans are going to be clinging to that for a very long time.
What's interesting on that, when we talk about like vacating not mattering, whenever the Reggie Bush Heisman stuff comes up, I never knew Villanova played in a Final Four in the 70s.
Oh, 71.
No banners.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 71. I tell people like it matters a little bit because I've been in that arena over 100 times. I learned it 4 years ago.
Yep.
So it's like there are reasons that those things going away make a difference.
And maybe that's something maybe that's our next Wildcat of the week. We talk about the Jack Kraft teams.
I have an interesting story in regards to that I was told by a guy on that team, which is a fun, not like insights. I mean, if you knew him, he'd tell you it's not a secret, but it's kind of goes into how the kind of suspension happened or the vacated thing happened.
Yeah.
Vacation happened.
Yeah.
The vacation.
All right.
By the way, James Madison won the
Yeah.
Sun Belt tournament. Not that I think that was Sun Belt was going to be a bid stealer league. I think if James Madison had lost, they probably would have been left out of the field. But it would have been another team that people were like, "Oh, this should be in the field," and blah blah blah. So, no bid stealer there.
None there. All right. So this week, everybody, we will. I mean, I guess we're gonna record on Monday, maybe Sunday.
I think we're going Sunday after the.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
I guess.
Yeah. That's
Sunday after the NIT selection.
Yeah. So like. Maybe Sunday. I'll say this: if we make the tournament, I feel like you'll hear from us in some way, shape, or form pretty quickly. Even if it's just like us being in Twitter, maybe doing the spaces. If not, we'll probably just keep it for whatever time. You'll hear from us sometime, Sunday or Monday. Just stay around. You'll figure it out. You got nothing going on in your life if we lose anyway. So
break out the golf clubs.
Yeah,
I have tons of stuff going on.
Get ready to learn the left side of the fairway, baby, because that's where I'm going to be living at. Beyond that, obviously DePaul on Wednesday. We can't overlook them. Like the team can't overlook them. We can. And then Thursday, Marquette, which is where the season comes down to, and then hopefully we're still cooking on Friday. Obviously, Selection Sunday at 6. If you guys just like brackets, you get ready to get your bracket filled out, and we'll have some fun there.
Get ready to fill UConn in as well.
Yeah, get ready to fill UConn to at least the Elite Eight.
National championship.
I'm gonna whatever. Yeah. All right. I think that's everything. That covers everything. But we'll talk to you guys next week. And as always, let's go Nova.